Hello, and welcome to the Learn to Code podcast here at 1 Month. In this episode, I'm going to share with you 6 reasons why you'll never learn to code. Harsh, right? Ooh. Truth is, I want you to learn to code. And if you are in the middle of learning, I want you to succeed. So I'm going to share with you 6 things that I've seen my students not do that I think is really important and you need to be doing if you're going to learn to code. I've been teaching people how to code now for over 10 years, and I've seen lots of successes, lots of people who have gone on to build businesses, sell businesses, get jobs at Facebook, get jobs at Google. And I've seen way more people who have started and stopped, or not even gone any, or they just started and then said they were learning to code, watched a few videos and stopped. I don't like that. Let's not do that, right? I'm going to help you get committed. Can you imagine what's the difference between these two people? The people who starts, says they even pay sometimes for a course, right? They even show up in my class and they're paying, and then they don't learn anything, right? Or they don't learn enough, or they pass the test, but they don't actually kind of know, how to apply this to the real world. What is it? Motivation. Staying motivated. The number one criteria that you need in order to learn really anything. That's the toughest part of learning to code, staying motivated. When I taught myself how to code, I was a music major and I did not have anything to do with coding. I thought it was just so nerdy. Like, I didn't even understand why you would want to learn to code. But I had a problem. I wanted to make a website for my band. And you have to imagine that, this was 2002. I was in college, and this is before coding was cool. It's before Squarespace. It's before it was easy to do. We were in a band and we were playing lots of shows, and we had songs. We had MP3s that we wanted to share with people, right? And I thought, oh my God, it would be so cool if I could just, find a way to get my music on the internet, and so people could, share it. Maybe we would show up in a city and maybe some people would know the songs before we arrived, right? This is how the internet was in 2002, before YouTube, before Spotify, before any of this, right? And so I was determined to just figure out how to make a website. And I went to my friends in the CS department, and they were learning computer science and they were learning things, but they actually didn't know how to make websites. And that's pretty true today as well. You can go and get a computer science degree and not necessarily know how to make a website, because the things you learn in computer science courses are Java, and you learn how to do, lots of things with data, and you learn about how machines work, and I don't know, it's just loops and variables. Like you learn so much of the nitty gritty sometimes that you don't actually get into building apps. That's not the fundamentals of computer science. And I learned that the hard way. I even took a computer science course back then, hoping that would open up the gateway to meeting developers, or to just, maybe I could learn enough and figure it out. And the first thing I learned is that, this is not the path. This is not the HTML, CSS, SQL, the languages that I need in order to build websites, right? So I learned that the hard way. Eventually left that course feeling just really, I'd wasted so much time going down the wrong path. Eventually put in the time to learn HTML and CSS, a bit of PHP at the time, and was able to launch this website. And the thing that I was really surprised about is not that my band became number one famous radio, MTV, whatever it was at the time, super famous for our music, was that I was starting to become well known for someone who makes websites, because people saw my website and I had made one for my friend's band who started to really pick up, and people were like, can you make me a website? And somehow this became my job. And I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. People need this. And actually it's kind of fun, right? But going back to me making this website, this was my motivation, right? I wasn't just learning to code or to just get a job one day. I had a really clear motivating goal. I wanted to get my band a website. And so I'm going to share with you now 6 reasons why you'll never learn to code. And all of these have to do with motivation. It's about how to focus your attention so that you know why you're learning to code, and that you know how to stay motivated when things get tough. So let's get into that right now. Let's start with 6 things, and we will start with number 6. The number 6 reason why you will never learn to code: you're not making a real project. right? So as I shared with you, one of the biggest things that I see my students running into is they're spending a lot of time thinking about code or doing, let's say, Codecademy, like you're just kind of like, playing around with code, but you're not actually building something. And so you need to build something. If you don't have an idea for yourself, ask your dad, ask a friend, put it on Facebook and say, I'm learning to code. Does anybody need a website I can build you? You want to pick something reasonable that you can do, in size or scope. Maybe ask a developer friend, what could I build? That's basically a really good way to go about it. If you need an idea for a project, I can give you a few ideas right now. So a few of the things that I use in my courses at 1 month, a few project ideas. In the HTML course, you can make a portfolio page, right? That is something that you should be able to do with just HTML and CSS to make a 1-page portfolio that you can either share your photography. It's pretty easy to be able to have images. Maybe you click on them and they get bigger using some JavaScript. Maybe you work with a designer friend or you get some design inspiration and put it together. These are all things that you could do pretty easily with some basic HTML and CSS, make a portfolio project. One of my students took on that challenge and made, and now I got to prepare you for what's about to happen. This is my all-time favorite student project that was ever submitted to me when I gave the assignment to make a portfolio project. This is called Yoga and Smiles. And I'm going to play you a clip because, not only is it a website, it comes with audio. Ready? Okay. What's going on here? What are you seeing? Okay, what you were seeing if you went on this website would be about 1 million smiley faces melting into the background of it that says, "You are not Gucci," and there is an atomic bomb explosion and a hot dog flying around chasing a taco. What? This doesn't even make any sense. Of course, right? I mean, I'll put on my "this doesn't make any sense" hat right now, and that's fine. It doesn't have to make any sense. This is some art project. I don't know. It makes me happy. I love this site. This is great. I'll put a link to it down in the show notes if you want to hear/see what's going on here. But you can just have fun with this. This is all I'm saying. Make a project, make an art project, share something. It doesn't really matter. The point is this student learned in the course, learned the basics of what they needed to know, and they had some motivation, which is, I think, making my day. I'm making a hamburger spin. You got to see this to know what I'm talking about. But the point is, have something you're going to make, be proud of it, share it, and that's a really good way to stay motivated. The number 5 reason why you will never learn to code is you don't understand problem solving. So learning to code isn't just about writing commands of lines of code. It's a much bigger picture, and I think a much more satisfying, exciting thing. You are a problem solver. You are trying to solve people's problems. Learning problem solving isn't really a skill that is I don't know where you actually just learn problem solving. That's not a major in college, right? I learned problem solving through the process of learning to code. And so I think that there is a bit of a catch-22 here, right? Because I'm saying, you need to learn problem solving in order to learn the code. But I think the takeaway for you, if you're learning, is thinking about what you're doing as problem solving and not just writing codes like a code monkey. My friends who are developers, who are good developers, make a lot of money, they'll be like, I'm not a code monkey. They'll get really mad at that idea. It's not just write this command, write this command, write this command, do what you're told. It's about creative thinking. Great developers learn how to think creatively. I'll give you one example of an exercise I use in my Programming for Non-Programmers course, which is, and it's a simple one, right? It's the idea that you are already used to problem solving. You do it every single day, right? So here's an example. How do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? How do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? That's the problem. Okay, the problem is I want to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I talk the students through, first I'll just say to you right now listening, how do you do that? Well, you'd be able to tell me a few different steps. You'd say, okay, got to get some bread. Okay, so write that down. Get some bread. Number 2, okay, I have to get some peanut butter and jelly. Okay, get some peanut butter and jelly, right? Number 3, put the 2 slices of bread on the table. Okay, these are okay. Number 4, put some peanut butter on one side. You get the point, right? It's going through this. It's just writing down the steps that you need to solve that problem. We do a similar project in my course with directions. How do you get to Times Square? Imagine I'm a robot and I need you to program me to tell me how to get from where I am right now in New York City, downtown, to Times Square. And you can do the same thing. You can write out the directions. I have all my students write this problem out. An interesting thing that I see with the Times Square example is that every single person's answer is different, is somewhat different. Everybody has a different way to do it. Some are longer, some have 60 steps, some have 100 steps, right? Some, we don't actually give that much time, but they're on like step 5 and like I haven't even like left the room, and some are just like in 2 steps, like, yeah, just step number 2, call an Uber. Okay. There's no right or wrong way to solve this problem of how do I get to Times Square? And all of these examples are the same with coding. There's no right or wrong way to make a website, to make an app, to sell 100 t-shirts and to brand it or to do whatever you want to do. These are all problems, and we need to think that way. As someone who has built a creative agency for developers, when clients come to us and they're talking to us about solving their problems, I work with them to see what is the problem. I'm not going to take a client who says, "Oh, I just want, a $50,000 website that sells t-shirts," right? What problem are you trying to solve? Because if that's the case, just go to Shopify. Like, why do you need me to build this thing from scratch? Oh, okay. Well, if we talk through it more, I actually need a data integration from our partner in China, and we need to know inventory here. If there's something more into it, we really want to get to, we need it branded for the users who are coming. I just want to get all the problems out. I want to get them all on the board. I want to talk through them. That's what we'll do, actually, if a client comes, and that's called UX, right? The user experience, breaking that down. What problems do we want to solve for the user, who is the person coming to the app, and for the user, the administrators who are using the app? We want to write down all these problems. And then just like with the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, me and the developers are going to write step by step how we're going to solve that problem. And then you translate it into code. This is a long way of saying, when you're learning to code, think about the problem that you were trying to solve, not just about writing the code. It's a really important skill. And it will set you apart over time. All right, number 4. The number 4 reason why you will never learn to code: process makes perfect, and you don't have a process. What this means is that when people are learning to code, a lot of times my students, I'll see them just kind of shooting off in a variety of different directions, learning a little bit of JavaScript, learning a little bit of Python, just kind of copying a lot of code from Google and throwing it into the site, which is sort of okay when you're starting to learn. Like, you just kind of, you could just kind of, just jump in over your head. Do it, jump in over your head. Totally fine. At some point, if you really want to make the leap to, becoming a full stack, a really great web developer, you need an actual process. And so what that means is that, well, for me, it just means documenting and looking at the steps that I'm taking so that I can repeat them over time. How do I set up a new GitHub repository? Just something basic, right? Okay, cool. I have an Evernote. I love Evernote. I keep Evernote, and I have an Evernote of the variety of different steps that I need to go through that process. Maybe it's just, a list of do this, go to this page. Maybe I have some screenshots, all of this kind of stuff. For the repetitive tasks that I'm doing in building projects, I like to document it as best I can. Not only does that give me a source, of really like a dictionary, my own personal dictionary for how to build and how to rely on this stuff, so I don't forget it. It also shows me an order, makes me think critically, and it's something I can optimize over time. I can go back and go, oh no, I figured out a better way, right? When you're learning to code, there are going to be just so many different skills and tools you're going to need to learn, and having an order and having a framework that you use, being able to speak clearly about that in interviews, right? Do you do testing? What kind of tools you're using? What text editor you're using? Why? All this kind of stuff. Being able to have a process and be able to think through not only what you're doing, but why you're doing it is super important. And I would say process makes perfect. The number 3 reason why you will never learn to code: you think that you need to know everything. A lot of developers will spend months, maybe years, just being like, yeah, I'm learning to code. I'm still doing it. Oh, I took this 8-week boot camp, right? Eventually I'll get to the place where I can have a client, right? Where I can put my portfolio up. You just kind of keep getting stuck in the research phase. You've been doing it for long enough, but you're not like progressing to actually, like I said, working on projects or building out your process or finding clients, right? You're just stuck learning, you're slurping up information. It is okay not to know everything. You can take a job and not have to know everything, right? You can learn on the job. Now, what is the right degree of that? I'm not sure. That's something you can speak with employers about, or with friends if you're learning and you're pair programming and you're learning from each other, right? You can talk about, hey, I know this, but I don't know this. But the important part is it's okay to say you don't know. I've been in too many rooms hiring developers where they pretend to know everything, right? Oh, I read the specs for HTML and I've been doing Python for like, I don't know, whatever, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. I know everything about it. Like, nobody knows everything about any of these languages, right? So first off, it's probably a lie, right? If you don't have any humility in coding, you're probably lying, right? For the most part. So it's okay to say I don't know when you don't know, because I will recognize that and say, cool, like maybe this is something this person can learn, right? We have hired people here at 1 month who came to us, and we have a Ruby and Rails stack here, who came to us and didn't even know any Ruby and Rails developers that wanted to work on the project. They knew a little bit, but they were really good in other languages like Python, right? And that kind of mindset, that kind of ability to learn, and the honesty to say like, I don't know this and I don't know this, is way better when you're learning than to pretend you know everything. Nobody's going to want to work with you, and it's going to really kind of set you back from ever taking on projects if you just delay and pretend you need to know everything. Okay, the number two, should we get to a drum roll pretty soon? Number 2 reason that you will never learn to code: you think Google is cheating. So this goes with the last one, that basically you don't need to know everything. I like to say that 75% of developing is Googling. And it's okay to admit that. It's okay to be reading through documentations, to Google things you don't know. There was this really great thread a few years ago. I'm going to read it to you now. That was started, I believe, by DHH. DHH, David Heinemeier Hansson, is the man who created Ruby on Rails, the very popular Ruby framework. So anyways, DHH, he created this programming language, basically, right? And he tweeted, I'm going to read to you now. He tweeted this tweet: "Hello, my name is David. I would fail to write bubble sort on a whiteboard. I look up code on the internet all the time. I don't do riddles." So seeing this, I know when I first read that, it was like, yeah, I feel that, right? There's this pressure to feel like, A, you need to know everything, and B, that it's like embarrassing to look up code on the internet. But this guy's, created a programming language and made millions with this company, 37 Signals. And so he admitted this. And what this opened up on the internet was just like a wave of really established developers making these confessions, which is a blog post called Developer Confessions. I'll link to it in the show notes if you want to read it. I'll read a few more of these because it's just so, I find it so nice and refreshing to hear. Hello, my name is Saskia. I'm working on Rails since 2011. I don't know migration syntax to add remove column. I Google it every time. Hello, my name is Tim. I'm a developer at Google with over 30 years coding experience, and I need to look up how to get the length of a Python string. You get the point. Again, I'll share this with you if you want to read more of these. The real big takeaway here is Google is not cheating. Don't be embarrassed to look up things. You don't need to memorize them. I think that's a really strong demotivator for new students. The number one reason why you will never learn to code is you don't surround yourself with other brilliant coders. It's a lot easier to stay motivated if you have other people around you who are also learning to code, or who you can learn from, or who you maybe have to deliver something to, right? Like deadlines, making a project, a lot of these ideas that we're talking about. So where can you meet these people? Well, of course, you can take a bootcamp course or you can pay for something like that, but you don't have to. There are free options. There are meetups that you can go to, whether in person or online. There are also sites like Airpair and Code Mentor. I'll put some links down in the show notes, where you can get basically an on-demand tutor and even just spend like 15, 20 minutes having somebody check through your work, check through your homework. All of that kind of stuff can really be motivating to help keeping you going. Just being able to tune into, like I said, a meetup or a local group where people are learning, or if you take a boot camp, just having to talk and set deadlines with other people and watch how other people do it. There's a process called paired programming, and paired programming is basically two people, right? Two developers working together at a computer together, and only one of the developers is coding. The other one is watching, and they are talking through what they're doing. What they found in doing research on this process of paired programming is that the code tends to be something in the magnitude of like 5 times better than had just one person wrote it, right? There's a lot of research on this, that the quality of code and the ability to learn and share information can really be improved by sitting down and learning side by side with somebody. Again, whether that's another developer, whether that's a teacher, something like that. But surround yourself with brilliant coders and you will learn how to code a lot quicker. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. These are 6 reasons why you'll never learn to code. Again, ultimately, I want you to succeed. And these are, I would say, roadblocks that I've seen my students run into that I really want to just shine some light on in case you're having trouble with one of these. If there's a 7th thing, I'd love to know. You can you can leave a message on the blog where this is posted at learn.onemonth.com. And you can also get a lot of other free Learn to Code episodes of this podcast at iTunes, Spotify, or at the learn.onemonth.com site. If you would like to learn to code with me, I teach HTML, CSS, SQL, Python, a variety of different languages, JavaScript, all online at onemonth.com, where you will make real world projects in every single one of my courses. That is a guarantee. And the reason we call it onemonth.com is because of this motivation that I'm talking about. I just noticed that when students have a deadline, right, when they're making projects and when they can get some feedback on that project along the way, they are much more successful. And so I'd say that's been my motivation for creating the site, for creating the courses, and for sharing that with you. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions for me or anyone at 1 Month, teachers@onemonth.com. Just let us know what's up, and best of luck learning to code, and best of luck staying motivated. Talk to you soon.